Well, we're here. We're here. You know what? Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 178. Travis gave me the deets here. Episode 178 of GeekVerse. This is an actual GeekVerse episode.
Wow, and it's just you and I.
It's just, yeah. This is like weird, twisted, like crazy. It's just us. But yeah, it's episode 178. I got a couple of things I got to quickly put out here from that Travis wanted me to mention. So there was that video, Kirkland. I don't know if you saw it, but Kirkland got found in this car, and this character was actually beating him up. His name's Pan Solo. Have you seen that? You saw that video? Yeah. So Travis wanted me to state that the Wolf Order has nothing to do with such a thing. We don't condone violence. And that's just Kirkland in a bad place at a bad time. He's an innocent man, and people take advantage of innocent men.
I know.
Other than that, there's going to be a hell of a match this Sunday. It's Dark Souls, the speed run. So,
Ooh,
yeah, yours
forward to that.
truly here will be taking on a couple other gentlemen, and it's going to be a good time. I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out. But other than that, I think the only other thing is there will be a exclusive, superb Roddenot episode coming up soon in the month of April to tie in with Avengers Infinity War. There's going to be a special guest, not revealing who that third person is. It's going to be joining your compadres here, but it's going to be a great time. Well, my name is Taylor Field.
And I'm Ruben Olson.
And we are here to talk about
Pacific Rim Uprising.
Yes!
It's finally here after so many years.
Yes.
My favorite, I guess people call it a bad movie, so I call it my favorite bad movie, but I think Pacific Rim's a good movie. Yeah, there's a lot wrong with it, but it's my guilty pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
So I love giant robots punching giant aliens in the face. That's the best thing.
So, were you ever expecting them to actually put out a sequel?
No.
No?
I completely expected Pacific Rim to die.
Really?
Yes, that's why I bought it. I supported it in every way I could. I even bought the really crappy Xbox game.
It has an Xbox game?
It's really bad.
What?
It's Roddenot quality.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll have to bear that in mind. Interesting. Okay. Well, I guess we'll do a quick non-spoiler overview.
Yes,
before
let's
we dive
do that.
into it. So, you kick it off.
Is it worth seeing? Let's put that out there right now. Well, if you like giant robots, yes, go see it, support it, try and get a third quill out there because it is definitely left open enough for another movie to come out. Is it good? That's another question. That's a whole other beast entirely, and that is, again, something that's completely dependent on your enjoyment of this kind of film. If you like the new Godzilla, if you like the old Godzilla, giant monster movies, this is your jam. If you like anime and giant robots in anime, this is also your jam. If you don't like either of those things, this is a bad movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's really directed towards a niche audience. And the sequel, I think, doesn't handle itself as well for newcomers as the first movie did.
What do you mean by that?
Like, the way that it's so rapid fire at the beginning. If this was your first viewing of Pacific Rim, you haven't seen the first one, they don't explain enough. It's just thrown at you in like flashback style. And there's all these terms put out there that you don't understand. And you don't understand how the drift system works. You don't understand how the robots move and look so fluid and stuff. You have to suspend your disbelief. And basically, I think to sum up the whole movie, is it feels like a really good episode of Power Rangers.
Yeah. That was in the back of my mind through several points of that film, actually.
Yeah. It is. It's cheesy. It has a different level of humor than the first movie does. It's got a younger crowd as the main cast. But it's still... that's some good action. It's better than the Transformer films.
I will support that. I'm a huge fan of Transformer films. I love them. Action-wise, this film totally scoops it, I'd say. The filming was beautifully done.
Well, if we're going to bring up Transformers, I will say that the first Transformers movie the Michael Bay one, is still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the rest of them. I think the rest are trash. They're good for the action and the robot porn, but the only actual movie that's worth viewing critically is the first one. Mm-hmm. Beyond that, they kind of
downhill a little bit.
You have to be a fan to enjoy it.
Yeah, like myself, I guess.
And I think that's kind of the same deal with this movie.
Yeah.
If you're not a fan of the first film and you're expecting something huge that's going to change the storyline, it's not there. It's just more of the same. It's one of those typical sequels with a little bit more to it. And whether they really deal with it right or not is for question.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because what really happens in this movie, I mean, without going into spoiler territory, everything that happens, it doesn't really change a whole lot until the very, very end. Mm-hmm. And it does happen, but it doesn't happen in this movie. If there's a third movie, it will happen. Like, they'll change the story up. There'll be development and plot. And there is some major character development, but it doesn't happen to the main cast. It kind of happens off screen, we could say.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
You know, I mean, my thoughts, like, I went into this movie thinking I was already knowing what to expect in certain ways, in certain aspects, but it really had me on the edge of my seat throughout most of it. A lot of the scenes, I was just totally engaged and involved in what was going on with this, what was being shown, and for me, like, it just kept one-upping the like the first one in many ways. I think the best way that I could relate this to is, like, we have the first movie, and I'm relating it to Independence Day. The first movie came out, it was its own thing. Some people like it, maybe they didn't, and then they were just released the second one, which sets it up for another one. But it all depends, you know, whether you like it or not. We didn't really need that second one. I think this is a film like we didn't really need it, except for the fans like yourself who really, really wanted it to happen, even though it did have a bad start off with the first film. That being said, I have the Blu-ray 3D bundle of Pacific Rim 1. I really enjoy the movie, and yeah, I think this brought a lot to its whole universe, and it's really established into something.
It does establish a lot to the universe, but it's not really meaningful to this particular film. It really needs a third movie to really take what this movie brought into it and turn it into a new story.
Yeah.
Because you've got like the whole, okay, we gotta save the world kind of a jam, and it's the same thing again as the first movie, but it's not quite as, how do I put it? Okay, the first movie handles itself with the whole Gypsy Danger sacrifices itself, the two main characters barely survive, they hug at the end, they end the whole kaiju conflict, it's said and done, it is over, it's this huge thing that it builds up to the very end, and then bam, there's that little bit of happiness, right? This movie kind of goes, well, okay, here's all that stuff that we already saw in the first film. It's just people are fooling around now. Everyone's happy. Oh, shit, it's happening kind of again. Let's build ourselves up. And then it just kind of, it doesn't, your expectations are, it's the same as the first film. It's kind of following that same pattern of tragedy and hope and then happiness and all that kind of stuff. And then it's just, they didn't bring anything new to the table, you know? But it does it well. I like it.
It was following the same kind of line, basically, as the first one approached.
If you were to make two graphs, like if the first movie had its graph of build-up and stuff, and it's meaningful, this movie just kind of copies it. And because it's happening after that, it's like, well, it's not that meaningful now with the first film.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Well,
but that's like, I'm being really critical here.
Yeah.
That is the nature of someone who wouldn't like this movie so much if they tried to view it critically with the first film. It's like, well, what's the point? I loved it. I thought Pacific Rim Uprising, the action and the characters and the action and the robots and the kaiju and
the characters,
the action was really good. Also, did I mention the action? That was really good.
Well, that being said, I think we can definitely jump now into spoiler territory. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, you're planning to, pause here, go see the movie, come back. if you haven't seen the movie and you just don't give a flying fudge, then stick around. We're gonna spoil it now. So 3, 2, 1, spoilers.
Mako dies.
There's a big frickin' spoiler.
She's fucking dead, kiddos. Wow, I was not expecting that.
No?
No, she was such a major character in the first film, and it was so happy that she survives through it all, and they hug at the end. We don't get to see our main character from Pacific Rim 1. He's not there. We just have Mako. She's the only tie into the first film besides the scientists.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just, there's so much to her. And she gets a little bit of, like, she's a really important character. She's leading this whole crew. And she dies tragically. And I thought that was a major setup for character development. For Pentecost to be like, fuck, I really fucked up now. Like, I should have been in this scene the whole time since, like, my initial thing with the cadets and all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
But
she did give them the coordinates, though.
She gave them the coordinates, and that's kind of what she was. She was just like a plot device.
Yeah.
And they killed her off. And it felt like it was going to be really powerful, and then it was kind of like, well, it's kind of pushed to the side after that. Once they mourn her a little bit, which is fine. I kind of feel upset that they killed her off instead of being, wow, that was like Walking Dead where they kill off a character and you're like, it's so sad, they're never coming back, and you get to focus on new characters. This wasn't quite the same. It was like, we're just going to make you feel that way, and then we're going to completely ignore it.
Mm-hmm. They definitely built up her death too. It was very prolonged, you know. His hand was right there and it just scratches like, oh.
I didn't expect it though. They did a really good job at making you feel like she wasn't going to die.
Yeah. But she died. That helicopter exploded. Mm-hmm. It was gone. I was surprised to see her back though. I thought that was very cool. Because you're right, the main character of the first movie wasn't in there. Like, there are a lot of characters that I thought would have returned that didn't at all. Reality, I mean, I think besides her, there were the two scientist guys. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I love their kind of humor, the way they bounce off each other.
They're great.
I was not expecting the one guy's, like, to turn, like his play on everything. I did like it.
When he went back to his house and he's talking to, like, his wife off screen.
Alice, yeah.
I was not expecting him to pan around the corner like that and you'll see the kaiju brain there. Like, shit.
And the music cue clicking in. What song was that again? I just remember the word love being dropped in the lyrics.
I don't remember. I wasn't listening to the music that close.
It was a very fitting song. The whole time throughout this movie, like, sidetracking from the characters, but it just drops, like, good music cues that just fit with the scenes in a very humorous way. But, I mean, let's talk, it was, Mute, right? Or Newt, I can't remember. Newt, I can't remember how they pronounced it, yeah. Newt. Well, let's talk about him then. Like, how did you feel, like, when he first appeared on screen? Did you feel like he was suspicious at all, or just crazy like the first one?
I thought it was a little weird. Like, he was acting a little bit different. He was acting like a stuck-up rich boy.
Yeah.
I didn't like that, but it kind of suited his personality because the first film, he's so wacky. Like, I totally expected Newt to turn into some kind of rich overlord with his initial appearance there because he was acting so cocky. But for him to be evil, I wasn't expecting that, and I loved it. He was like a Scooby-Doo villain, or like Rita Repulsa from Power Rangers. He was so over the top after he went fully evil. It was great. And I loved that they kind of made you question it after the initial reveal with the brain. And then it turns into, oh, is it that other lady that's all evil with the drones and everything?
Mm-hmm.
And then it turns out, oh, no, like it flips the spoiler or the plot twist back on its face, and it's like, it actually is new. Holy shit.
Yeah.
All that crazy crap happening.
Yeah. Although it wasn't, I mean, it was him doing it, but it just, they kept portraying that it was like him and like a third person. It was actually the precursors talking through him.
Yeah.
Whether talking or was the brain, I guess, kind of talking through him, I guess. Which is really weird to see him, again, like, just connecting with it and just getting, like, some high off of it. Those were really weird.
Oh, that was so good, though. I loved it. I mean, okay, maybe it's not really his personality that's at stake here. It's, like, some kind of precursor possession.
Yeah.
But it's still, like...
Still really good. Yeah. I have to say, his whole, his plan, just seeing the... I don't know. They're not Jaegers. The drones, I guess. Seeing the drones get taken over by kaiju, kind of like DNA and stuff. That was super sick.
This the fact that they look kind of similar and they're all white too. It's I don't know if it's maybe trying to parody or reference Evangelion, but in the end of Evangelion, there's a couple of white mechas that kind of look like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. They get fought by the good guys as well, and it's kind of a thing that's quite similar to this movie.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, they were just super badass the way that they were fighting, and it was getting to that really awesome point, and this is a point for me in the movie that it really made me shrink in my seat, just how ready the kaiju fucking were. The portal was just opening up, and they were already just popping up, like they were waiting, like, sure, they probably communicated it somehow, but it's eerie to know that this whole period of 10 years, they're just sitting there waiting for a portal open just to go through. Mm-hmm. It was freaky for me watching it, but I love seeing like the one kaiju get cut in half as the portal was closing. And,
that was really cool.
Yeah.
I was wondering when they were going to introduce the big kaiju we saw in the trailer, because the 3 that came out, I was like, is Mount Fuji going to open up a bigger rift? And I was really hoping that was going to be the ending.
Really?
I was really hoping Mount Fuji would open up and it would be a whole new rift and like the big kaiju would come out of it. Mm-hmm. And that would be our big universe story change where it's like the kaiju world is now completely infiltrating the human world. And we'd end with some kind of like little victory, but everyone's beaten down and they have to rebuild. And the kaiju are on the planet. That would have set up a 3rd movie perfectly. And it would have really changed it and been not just a sequel that brings everything back to the beginning again. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you feel about going back to the characters John Boyega, Pentecost?
I didn't have much opinion on that.
Really?
Actually.
Really? So which Pentecost did you like more then? The badass one in the first film, or
they're different enough characters for me. Mm-hmm. I can't compare them. In the first movie, he plays his role perfectly. He does a good job at being this big setup for everything that happens. And this movie, it's just another character that happens to be related to him. Mm-hmm. He's got a role to fulfill. He doesn't feel like he's as good as his father, I think.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, like, I know he's Finn in Star Wars. He does a good job in Star Wars, but I really think he did a better acting job in this.
I think way different.
He's way different.
Because I think it's that Finn is quite a bit quieter, more reserved, and his character in Pacific Rim Uprising is way more outgoing.
Yeah.
He talks a lot faster. He's a little bit funnier with his toppings and everything.
Oh, that was great. Yeah.
Yeah. He did a really good job with that character. They kind of crossed really well.
That one girl though that he was trying to flirt with, like, I don't understand. She was a ranger. She had at no point in time ever got into a Jaeger. She served no purpose in the film whatsoever.
She was just for comedy, I think, because she kisses them both, and it's really confusing.
That was really the only comedic scene. Like, it was just with her. I mean, I don't know. You take her out.
It doesn't change much.
It doesn't change much.
I think it's supposed to be that bitter rivalry between Pentecost and our other guy. I forget his name now. He was in Pacific Rim 1. He was the guy in this movie who was piloting Gypsy Avenger.
Oh, right. With
Pentecost. What's his name? Nate?
It's Nate, something like that, yeah.
Anyways, so I think that the girl was only really there to establish that jealousy between the two.
Yeah.
Because they're always arguing in this film, and there's not much for them to argue about with just their backstory with the Jaegers and fathers and stuff. But throw the girl in the mix, and they really have some kind of battle to go on there.
That's true.
Because they both wanted the girl.
Yeah.
And you can't... We know how Archie comics go. You can't do that.
Just got confusing. I'm so confused.
Yeah.
On that line of girls, how'd you feel about the young cadet and her kind of story and play here with Scrapper?
She was fine. Mm-hmm. I think she was a good character. It's really easy to make a character like her annoying.
Did you find her annoying?
Well, just a couple points.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of that beaten down little girl who don't need no man, and she's all strong, independent on herself, and she just gets very violent and picks fights with everyone, kind of a deal. Like,
yeah,
that's been done so many times.
That was a downside for me in the latest Transformers, because they try and throw that in there. And I was so afraid they were doing that with this, because I was kind of disappointed the first time she was introduced. I thought, well, like, oh, this character's a badass riding around a motorcycle, and it's just this young girl, like, oh, what's this going to entail? But right away when she got into Scrapper and they were running from Apex whatever, the giant Jaeger, I thought that was hilarious.
That was great.
It was amazing.
And the robot turns around like, seriously?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was
Those
really,
little
really
bits
good.
of comedy were so good. And then, man, I'm trying to think, like, Newt really stole the show for the whole two scientists thing. Our other guy, he was just there, he was the same character. He didn't get any development at all.
No.
There was, you could throw any other scientist there, it's only this, that interaction between the two that's worthwhile. He didn't really play a big part.
No.
And then the rest of the cadets, I was a little bit disappointed that most of them got killed off.
I think just the one got killed off.
I thought one of them blew up as well.
No, because there were the 3 that survived in the one that has 3 pilots.
Yeah.
So there was the red one, there was the white-red one, and the brown one. The white-red one was the one that suffered damage. The one kid got, like, all blown up, and the other guy was just pinned. And then there were the 3 that survived, and then there was the other one where those 2 survived as well.
Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong then.
I'm pretty sure.
I feel like you could have taken them out, though, and just thrown any other pilots in there. They felt kind of shoehorned in just for the sake of having more Jaegers. I'm really riffing on this movie, but I loved it, I swear.
Well, that's the whole point of this, just to kind of, like, nitpick and get down to the nitty-gritty. I mean, one thing for me, like, I was kind of expecting there to be more Jaegers. I feel like after everything that's happened, you have 4? That's it?
I guess they thought they were safe, you know? So, I mean...
Okay.
They did show that there's, like, the big police-type units, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they were mass-producing Jaegers just out the kazoo there, like, wow.
Like the drone ones?
The drone ones. That was going to be their end-all goal. I think that's where all the resources were going. And
yeah.
The whole pilot thing and the cadets were like... I mean, 10 years, it's not a lot of time to train armies upon armies upon armies of people to ride big, expensive robots that probably take a good year to produce.
But see, they rebuilt all their frickin' cities.
That's probably where all the resources went.
That's where all the resources went. Build their frickin' skyscrapers. Which, that scene where... the kaiju scene where he's literally riffing down with the gravity, building after building after building. It's like there's another 10 years.
Yeah, that's good.
Gosh.
Man.
I mean, the another point too, like, that's just a tip of the iceberg with the action. But, like, when they were fighting, I can't remember his name, Orion, whatever, but the first possessed... Jaeger, which is a complete badass kaiju Jaeger.
That was a really good villain character.
It was really good. When they were in the snow and they were fighting, like, just above through the ocean, back up, like, it was just the transitions between the scenes were so good. The fighting was fantastic. I mean, I can't pinpoint this to another movie where it, on such a scale, has... such, even Transformers, the way they fight, the Transformers are just all over the place transforming. But this is, you have 2 people in sync fighting as a robot.
Yeah, it's choreographed.
Exactly.
The Transformers movies, there's action, there's explosions, there's no continuity between shots.
Mm-hmm.
And in the first movie, they tried to film it in such a way that it was like, oh, we're getting camera shots from where a helicopter would look at the action.
Yeah.
Like, we're trying to film it as if this was really a thing happening, not CGI.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of mixed the two together in this movie. There were a lot of those helicopter shots and shots from, like, on the tops of buildings looking down and from the street looking up, which really brings it together. But then to connect some of the punches and stuff, they have those kind of like floating invisible person shots.
Yeah.
And they bring it all together in the action. They circle around. You never lose yourself in the combat. You never go, whoa, okay, we're looking at the robot on the left side and the robot on the right side, and they're coming at each other, and suddenly the next shot is from this robot here, and he's like over here in our minds now. Like, how did they get over there?
Yeah.
It's a continual fluid fight scene.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about the action in this film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even when the kaijus were there, it was like, yeah.
It was very fluid. How do you feel about, because now the first movie didn't have any Jaeger on Jaeger action. This one had a huge portion of it being Jaeger on Jaeger. So how do you feel that they did with that?
I think they did pretty good. They could have just shoehorned in the kaijus coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have really brought this into the crappy sequel territory where it just redoes the first film. I mean, I don't care if I go see the first film again. That's great. I kind of expected that to happen for this.
Yeah.
And just that they changed it up and kind of bled into it a little bit to kind of just make it a little different. That's fine.
Yeah. I had no idea how they were going to bring the kaiju back into this world. Like, I, for the longest time, thought, okay, it's just these kaiju brains that are taking over these drones and Jaegers. Like, this is sick. I can dig this. I do want a kaiju to come back. And I loved how they just created their own rift, multiple rifts all over the planet, and just the 3 kaiju come through.
Mm-hmm.
That was fantastic. And, like, as I said, like, from the trailers, obviously we knew kaiju were going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it in such a great way that wasn't just, as you said, like shoehorning it or just riffing off the first film. And that point where those like swarmy things come in and it like merges them together.
I was thinking of the flood from Halo the whole time.
The flood from Halo?
Yeah, when they first show up, I was like, well, what's going to happen? Are they going to jump and pop? Like, and they didn't do that, though.
No. I was quite intimidated by that scene. I thought it was beautifully pieced together, and I was half expecting, like, that's when it kicked in Power Rangers for me. I thought, here, this is what Goldar should have been. And
yeah. Oh, yeah. I wanted to see the Eggers combine.
Yeah, that's what I wanted too. I'm like, okay, now the Power Rangers theme is going to kick in. Go, Jaegers, or whatever, I don't know. And it was just...
Go Pacific Rimers.
Oh, it was living and breathing it. And, you know, at the end of the day, they didn't. That's okay. It was still a badass fight scene. It irked me that those teenagers went in and disobeyed Pentecost orders. I thought that pulled me out of what was going on. I thought, you know...
At least he kind of talks about it, though. It's a stupid teenagers or something like that.
He does. And, you know, they were stupid because one of them died. And their Jaeger got destroyed. Yeah. It got Jaeger bombed.
That was so all the moms in the crowd taking their kids to see it. Be like, see what happens when you don't listen.
Yeah.
See?
Shot fired. What did you think of the score?
I thought it was great. I liked the remix of the Pacific Rim theme.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they played it during the final fight more. Mm-hmm. It kind of happened during the rebuilding. Oh, let's quickly patch up our Jaegers to go fight the big boss, but whatever. Mm-hmm. I can't ask for anything more on that front.
Yeah, I agree. It was very much the same and a little bit of new. Mm-hmm. Another thing I want to bring up, so they obviously discovered the whole point of the first movie, the whole plot, and that we didn't know in the first movie was that they were all trying to get to Mount Fuji, or Fuji, or...
Mount Fuji?
There you go. They were trying to get there, and they just discovered that 10 years after the war in this one. Do you feel like that's a little poor? Because they should have easily detected that in the first movie after killing tons of kaiju, eventually realizing the trajectory of them.
That kind of confused me, because they were popping up all over the globe.
Yeah.
And they were all coming from one rift.
Yeah.
I don't think there were multiple rifts. It was just the one rift?
It was just the one.
So... I have to wrap my head around that. And I just kind of suspended my disbelief for this movie. Mm-hmm. I didn't really care if they did things like that. But if we can go back and look at the first film again and see if there's some kind of connection and they actually pulled it from that correctly, that'd be pretty cool. But I don't remember enough of it to really nitpick about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like they kind of just retconned it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. It feels like they did. I don't know. It doesn't fully add up when you think about it.
I think it would have made more sense if, now that the rift is closed, they wanted to go to Mount Fuji to open up a new rift. That would have made so much more sense, because that's something that it's not tied into the first film directly. It's, because it was closed, they have to make a new one. They want to make a big one. They could go to Mount Fuji and cause a reaction, make a huge rift. And they could have ended with like a giant, huge kaiju, bigger than the trailers coming out, and the whole globe being taken over Terminator style, and just like a resistance being built up, like a little bit of humanity's left, and end with that little bit of like that little pocket of happiness, and go, well, we're still here. We'll see you in the third film, and we're going to fight back and retake our globe, like, to be continued, right at the very end. They could have done that, and I think that would have been better.
So... you like that version more than the fact they were just trying to detonate their kaiju blood in the volcano?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a bit of an ass pull for we gotta save the world type thing.
Yeah.
They needed a reason, but they didn't pull a very good one out.
Yeah.
The movie was still great for what it did.
Yeah, fair enough. Gosh, what else? What else is there? I'm trying to think. Covered characters. Covered.
Covered the characters. Covered the story. Covered the score. The overall everything.
Mm-hmm. Did you like the Jaegers and their weaponry, their arsenal, and everything they were dishing out?
I like that they changed it up from the slow moving robots from the first one to actually having like proper fast moving ones.
Yeah, that's true. They were very slow and yeah.
They were slow and clunky. There was a lot of weight behind them, so they felt really powerful. This time it was, well, they're more stylized, they're faster, there's agility to all of them.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like the just the whole in syncness it was with like the moves and the swords. Like I love that Omega, whatever his name was, when he dishes out one sword and they dish out their sword and he dishes out another sword. It's just, oh, that's great.
That's pretty good.
It's so good. And it comes full circle going back to the action. I mean, this film just did so many great things with it, hand in hand, and yeah. I can't really go into too much more at this point without going into my final thoughts, which I think is where we're pretty much heading here now.
Almost. Yeah, the one thing I want to add is the one thing I told you after we saw the movie is I wish they ended it not with Gypsy Avenger doing the Superman dive, but doing a Gurren Lagann kick. Just one nice straight kick right into the monster's face. Have like a great scene where it's just BAM! And the fucking head gets blown off. Just BSH!
Yeah.
And then everyone cheering like, yeah, we did it, whoa! It's just like, yeah, just end it like a typical episode of a TV show. If there was a Pacific Rim TV show,
that's how it would end.
This would be like a really big episode. It felt like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the good part about it, is if you don't look at this as mid-quill, but look at it as just a fun episode of Pacific Rim, it's really good.
Yeah. That totally, you just reminded me of one critical thing. Now, the ending clearly set it up for a third with what Pentecost said. He says, this time you guys aren't coming to our world, we're going to yours. They know how to create rifts now, obviously.
Yeah.
So now, are you excited for where they're going to go with this? Or do you want them to just stop? Or
I want them to go further and make a third movie. I want them to play on that, because that actually changes the whole storyline and universe now.
Mm-hmm.
It brings us into the kaiju world. It makes us explore those precursors and all that stuff. And it would end the actual series, too, if they do it that way.
Yeah.
I think it was a little abrupt, though, the way they did that.
Yeah.
That last scene just felt like they just threw it in there last minute. Like, oh, we need something to set up a third film. Let's take the fight to them. Okay, what about everyone else? Did they approve of this, or is it just you saying it?
It's just him. No one else.
It felt like it was just him.
It totally was.
Like, he's going to go upstairs and say, can we please go open up another rift? And everyone says no, and then,
he's technically the only, I mean, as far as people in rank, I'd say the whole command got blown up in that little thing. So, I mean, he's got command. He's got the whole, like, whatever that company is, girl on his side backing him up. So no one's going to really stop them when you think about it.
Yeah, and I guess Newt's alive, so they're probably worried about some other backup plan.
Yeah.
But they have to explore that in the next movie.
Yeah.
They didn't really pull that together at the end. It was exactly like I said, the ending of an episode to a TV show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm so happy to see a third movie if it comes around.
I hope so.
I really do. Our theater, yes, it wasn't like a fully large theater size, but it was very full. The tickets, like you said, they were selling very fast. All the good seats were gone. I mean, it was packed for Thursday night, I'd say. So I really hope this movie is, going to get some cheddar back. At least if not here, our friends over on the other side of the world, help us out.
Absolutely. And I think the movie came out at a good time, too. It came out after Black Panther.
Yes.
And before Ready Player One.
Yes.
So
Avengers.
Before Avengers. If it came out at the same time of either of those, we would never see a third film.
Absolutely not.
They're taking advantage of that break between movies right now, and the box office might get a little bit bigger because of that.
Yeah. I mean, as far as unless you had anything else to add, I'm gonna leave this into my final thoughts and my rating. I think with the trend of movies lately, I've been kind of disappointed. I mean, the last really good movie that I saw, I mean, it would have been Black Panther, and before that, I guess Jumanji. But then, like recently, Tomb Raider, it was great, but I wasn't 110% impressed with it, and it just kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. So, but check out our Tomb Raider review. I have to say this movie just lifted my spirits. It did so much that I loved with the first movie and more. And as far as movies go, I feel like nailing a sequel is very, very tough. But lately I've been very, very impressed with so many franchises actually pulling off successful sequels. I feel like this one did so much justice for what they were trying to do and this franchise. And I am easily, it's a day one buy for me when it drops on the shelf. I'm going to buy this.
I'll do it just to support it.
Exactly. Just to support it. I honestly wouldn't even be opposed to go seeing it again in theaters. I mean, just to, like, after the first watch is just to review it, analyze it, but the second watch just to enjoy it.
I saw the original 3 times.
In theaters? Really?
And then I watched it twice on Blu-ray.
Oh my god.
You know.
So you're down for a round 2 then?
Oh yeah.
Easy. Okay. Well, yeah, this movie did so much right, and I'm honestly going to give it a 10 out of 10 for me. I was at no point at all bored with this movie.
I can't go that high.
Really?
No.
That's understandable.
Pacific Rim is my guilty pleasure. It's a 10 out of 10. The sequel I'd give, in terms of my favorite guilty pleasures, like a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10.
Critically, I'd give the movie a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's okay. Anything else you want to add to back up your rating, or?
Go see it. Go watch it. If you like big robots, just if you like big robot booty, just go see it. Get it done with. Even if you don't like the film, just do it so I can get a third. Well, just do it.
That's all we want. We just want a third one.
Do it.
All right. Well, I guess that basically wraps up this solid review. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? You're going to find this and so many awesome other reviews with your internet connection in that search bar. Facebook, type in GeekVerse space podcast. Space, not the word. You're going to type a space bar, type it in. And you know what? You're going to find all this awesome content. You can check us out on Twitter, GeekVerseCast, our website, geekversepodcast.com, SoundCloud, iTunes, Podbay.
That's new.
Podbay. We actually can't comment on it because we're in Canada, but it is a site where we get all negative reviews. Some people are the most saltiest we've ever gotten on there. Like, it is brutal reviews.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They called us out by name, some of us, too. They're really rude over there. It's not a good site. But I shout it anyways. Yeah, iTunes, SoundCloud, Twitch, Twitter. We're everywhere. Just type us in on Google, and there you go. GeekVerse Podcast.
We'll see you in the search bar. All right.
That's perfect.